crypto is the new era. Crypto is what's gonna rule the world in 2017 and on. So here is to Donald Trump and all the government and all the banks. You guys are the worst. That's the reason why the world is so corrupt and it's so up. We're going crypto, guys, and this is the new century, our world, and we are gonna rule it.
Bitcoin is bringing a lot of the financial resources necessary to support Puerto Rico with its restart.
We got to know the history, fell in love with the people. We had a corporation in Delaware. We just decided to incorporate here, and like half of our team is moving here.
Puerto Rico to me means community. It means innovation. It's a place that we can call home and operate as global citizens.
My biggest impact on Puerto Rico is money I put into real estate, a lot. And John Paulson bought up all this, Condado area and built, it put zillions of dollars in real estate.
Puerto Rico is a hub for blockchain technology innovation. And in a few years, the rest of the world will see that impact. I've been told by people that they're very excited about what we're doing.
There was a shock after the storm, then there was an anger, like, why isn't anybody helping us? And now there's a sense of resignation out there.
Puerto Rico is happening. Give Puerto Rico an opportunity. Technology is taking over. This is a new world.
Puerto Rico, a territory claimed by the United States but often neglected. An economic downturn, high debt, and a series of hurricanes have led this island into economic devastation. Amongst the locals, some have used their US citizenship to flee to the mainland in pursuit of opportunities, while others remain here committed to rebuilding this island and restoring its economic dignity. As the island rebuilds its infrastructure, US investors and entrepreneurs are lured here by a series of tax incentives and the ability to make a big difference in a place that they call their own. Amongst these, a group of pioneers in the promising blockchain technology space. Are these Bitcoin billionaires here to save the island or just to save some cash? The island of Puerto Rico was hit by Hurricane Maria on September 20th, 2017, killing at least 55 people and devastating much of the island's infrastructure. It followed Irma and is the most powerful hurricane on record to have ever hit the island, with sustained winds of over 250 kilometers per hour. Knocking out most of the power grid, the island is still very much in recovery and survival mode. While some help has been forthcoming from the US military and FEMA, it hasn't always been enough and often arrived weeks later.
Today we're starting to see the utility trucks out and about and workers up repairing the lines. A lot of the power lines are above ground, and so there was so much more damage. They're going to have to go in and rebuild power poles and string new line all across the island. And today, one of the police officers that I talked to, who'd been into the central part of the island up in the mountains, said these people are looking at maybe a year without electricity restored.
Well, I tell you, first of all, we couldn't get out of here because it was pretty short notice. That hurricane kind of accelerated. We only had about a day and a half. No, could not get a flight out. Had to stick it out in our condo. And we were literally holding windows and doors from blowing out, literally. And the people around us did blow out because they weren't there. So we were actually lucky we stayed. But then we had to, I spent 2 months in New York because I couldn't function here. So until the internet and the cable and everything kind of got running and electricity, but otherwise, I mean, I've always worked out of my home. My company's got headquarters, but I don't ever go there except for company meetings. So I can be here just as easily as I could have been in Miami or Tampa, and it's easy to fly out of here and get to any East Coast city.
We traveled with Lulu, a local resident in one of the worst affected areas where Hurricane Maria hit. Months later, there are still signs of a devastation caused by Maria, and people are still scrambling to survive with intermittent power, water, and basic services.
And the hurricane was so big, it was 5 times the size of Puerto Rico, and it was on top of the island for, I think, a little over 27 hours. So when that happened, we lost all communication on the island. All our towers fell. So being on the outside and getting stuck in DC, we didn't know what was happening in the island. And so we helped capacitate the team on what needed to be done. The first thing is clear the ancillary roads and restore communications and make sure that people were getting the fuel they needed, and making sure that FEMA was able to distribute and deliver the food. But unfortunately, there was a breakdown in communication, a pretty large one. Not knowing how anybody was, working 20 hours a day from the governor's office trying to save people's lives. We were able to fly out almost 347 children out of private aircrafts. And just a lot of elderly people, getting them picked up and making sure they were able to make humanitarian flights. So you have to meet my neighbor here on my street. He lost his home after the hurricane. We haven't been able to get it back up. His name is Roberto. Robert. Yeah.
So, is this his house? Is this where he lives?
Es aquí donde usted vive.
Aquí donde vivo. 60 años llevo viviendo.
He's lived here for 60 years.
He's lived in this house for 60 years.
60 years. ¿Qué es lo que necesitas para ayudar? What do you need to rebuild? I'm asking.
Bueno, yo necesito affidavit porque esto no es mío aquí.
He says that he needs an affidavit because this isn't his. This is actually an issue that's happened here in Puerto Rico, that people inherit their families' homes, but they don't actually do the deed transfer.
So the house got destroyed by the hurricane, and now he needs to rebuild it, and he can't rebuild it because he doesn't have an affidavit.
Pero principalmente, okay, hace una semana usted no se siente muy bien. I'm asking him, you don't feel so well.
Sí.
Okay. ¿Qué es lo que pasó el mes pasado?
Yo me traté de ahorcar.
Since last month I tried to kill myself.
He tried to kill himself last month.
Sí, no hace mucho.
¿Fue durante el día o durante la noche?
Durante el día.
Okay. ¿A qué hora?
A las 7 de la mañana, chacho.
At 7 a.m. Okay.
How?
¿Cómo?
Ahorcando, muchacho. Yo que yo recibo,
Okay. He says he tied a rope around his neck.
Recibo, chacho.
He says he couldn't take living.
No aguanto más aquí, chacho.
Living there. He can't take it.
Well, what I see is an incredible job done by FEMA, done by the Coast Guard, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and Marines. I think that the job of the first responders has been something like I've never seen before. What FEMA's done, what the people that got here even before the hurricane have done, and the governor is with us, and your mayor is with us also, and governor. What's happened in terms of recovery, in terms of saving lives, 16 lives, that's a lot. But you compare that to the thousands of people that died in other hurricanes, and that frankly were not nearly as severe. I just have such respect for FEMA and for all of the people that got here early.
You know, I embarked on a journey down here in late 2013, early 2014, with a focus on banking. And so that's when, you know, kind of the idea all starts to get set and take hold. And then it was like, okay, we're all going to come here. I've been telling my friends this the last couple of years. And I said, 2018 looks like it's the year the hurricane hit. And I said, well, so much for that schedule. I think we need to go now. And so we accelerated the timetable because they need the help now. And a year is a world of difference. The only thing at this point where there's a plan is We're here to help Puerto Rico with its restart. You know, Puerto Rico can do everything it's doing on its own just fine, but it's always better with some help.
So you have all of this deep culture and history, you have amazing people, you have the open-mindedness of a place like San Francisco. So we came here and saw an opportunity, a really big opportunity to grow a community that we've grown in several places. The community in LA has been something that I've been in for a long time. I helped with the government's transition when LA did the Open Data Initiative, and I see the need here. There are 120 government agencies that don't talk to each other. They have closed loop systems, they have centralized databases, and when we have a technology that can fix this problem, you just want to come and help. So it was some initial conversations with friends who had moved here, as well as being introduced to the governor. When I met him, I was pretty much in for it because I really wanted to provide a lot of help, and I realized that the place has amazing heart.
So when did you discover blockchain? When did it change from video game mining to the penny drop moment where you discovered that there's this thing called the blockchain and the blockchain could do amazing things?
Because of what I've been doing around game currencies, most everyone in the world that was working on anything digital currency related, for the most part, had, crossed my path or come to me. Wired, I think in 2008, December 2008, which is interesting, the month before Bitcoin launches, did a 2-page spread, calling me the godfather of sort of digital currency. Bitcoin came to me with someone calling and asking me what I thought of it. I said, let me call you back, Google. And what I learned through my first business was market timing and kind of being able to see the timing. And so it was just something that I mostly tracked for the first few years, and it wasn't until 2012 where I had my kind of moment where I'm like, whoa, the time is now.
But what of Puerto Rico as a place? Is it a colony, a state, or a territory of the United States? A local cab driver schooled us.
Puerto Rico, in 1898, Puerto Rico was possession of the Spain government. And during the Hispanic-American War, Puerto Rico became possession of the United States of America. Philippines, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and a few islands from the Caribbean, they became part of the United States. Now, United States grant the independence to Philippines, to the Dominican Republic, and to Cuba. But they kept Puerto Rico, and they have kept Puerto Rico. The only reason it was because of the strategic point in the Caribbean.
Puerto Rico is bankrupt essentially because of colonialism. So what you have here is the Jones Act. 1917, they've become a territory of America, and what you see is not only do they get American passports, that's part of the deal, but they don't get the full rights of Americans, whereby they could trade freely, they could have, they could trade. So they can't trade, for example, directly with China. They have to do it through the US. Everything to this island has to come through American-made, manned ships. The thing about Bitcoin, it gives you individual economic sovereignty. They don't have economic sovereignty on this island. They could vote for whatever governor they want, but they have a fiscal control board appointed by, it's like 6 or 8 guys appointed by the US president who can overturn any economic decision that their governor makes. They also have the problem of the US dollar, so they can't devalue their currency like all the other Caribbean nations can and invite more tourists in. So with Bitcoin, with your own cryptocurrency, you have economic sovereignty, and it doesn't matter that your country is actually controlled by outside interests and a fiscal control board. You're like, okay, go control whoever you think you're controlling, bye.
Now, the tax breaks for US citizens in Puerto Rico are obviously one of the major reasons this territory is attracting so much attention. So I managed to track down the very man who drafted the laws governing these incentives, Alberto Baco, former Secretary of the Department of Economic Development and Commerce in Puerto Rico.
Basically, these are 3 principal acts that address business and 1 act that addresses the residency. The residency is Act 22, where you can become a resident of Puerto Rico and by becoming a resident, you pay no taxes, zero taxes on capital gains and on passive income. Why is that? Because we are a territory of the United States, and in the United States, you cannot tax without representation. Then we have 3 acts that the beauty is that all these people that move to Puerto Rico, they will not come here to vacation, and they saw the opportunity of bringing their businesses to Puerto Rico, creating jobs in Puerto Rico, developing new industries in Puerto Rico. Those are Act 20, Act 273, and Act 399. Basically, Act 20 is for any kind of service that you can render from Puerto Rico to the US and to the world. Act 399 is basically insurance services where you can render all type of insurance services from Puerto Rico, and it's called the International Insurance Center. And Act 273 is the International Banking Entity Law, where for Puerto Rico definition, international banking is everything that is done to outside of Puerto Rico. So you can do banking from Puerto Rico to the United States and have these tax advantages.
With the adoption of this attitude and the inception of these laws, Puerto Rico has quickly become an attractive and potentially lucrative place for many of these crypto billionaires. Now, one of the first major crypto players to set up home in San Juan was Michael Turpin, founder and CEO of Transform PR, which has represented more than 50 ICOs in the space.
I had heard about Act 20 and 22 from someone outside of the crypto community first, friend of mine in the investment banking crowd, and he was doing public offerings in China and living in California, barely traveled home to California, and yet spent 53% of his taxes on IPOs in China to the US government in California, and he thought that was kind of crazy. And so someone had told him about the Act 22 and Act 20 down here, and he moved in 2014, and he kept telling me what a wonderful place it was and how I should think about this since I do business all over the world. And the more I looked at it, I was like, this looks like a very viable thing to do. And in 2015, when the price of cryptocurrency was starting to trade in Ethereum and Factom and some other early tokens, which I've been an investor in and I've been a marketer of, I went to my wife and said, you know, we should look to moving to Puerto Rico.
Reeve Collins has been a long-standing pioneer in the Bitcoin blockchain space, and he was the co-founder and CEO of Tether. His efforts revolutionized the way currency is transacted by creating the world's first fiat currency platform on the Bitcoin blockchain. He's also quickly adapted to the chilled Puerto Rican lifestyle.
Right now, what's going on, especially in Puerto Rico with the hurricane and the disasters that it's faced and the financial troubles that it's in, and the fact that it's part of the US, but it's still a territory, so the laws are slightly different, meaning sometimes there's more flexibility or more ability for people that come in to hopefully positively influence the regrowth of Puerto Rico, right? Because we recently had a big conference here called Restart Week. So it was multiple conferences, a lot of different people from all walks of life that are very interested in blockchain technology, but also about giving back to the community and making an impact. They all came to Puerto Rico because they realized that there's a unique opportunity that's not present very often to really make a difference. The reason being is because the hurricane kind of hit restart, right? It was a terrible disaster. A lot of the island is out of power still. Today, some of the island's out of power, but it was out of power for 6 months. And what that does is it levels the playing field. It removes a lot of, at times, some of the boundaries and the entrenched interests. And everyone says, look, we're ready for change. We're ready to make a difference. And now we have this new community that revolves around blockchain technology. And what blockchain technology really does is a new way to transact. It's a more efficient, more transparent, more democratized way, meaning it provides access to everyone to transact. And that can transact with currencies or contracts or value. It just enables much more transparency in business. And having the ability to have everyone come down here and see how they can use that type of technology to apply to such a beautiful place is really going to make a difference.
I think the crypto community at its heart is very idealistic, and really only because the people who are in it at the very, very earliest came from that background, right? Like they really are, they have causes in their heart that they want to see happen, and they want certain things to happen in the world. And so that's a very good thing, right? And so we have to find a balance of idealism and practicality, and also understanding that we are all outsiders and we're treading on somebody else's ground, right? And so it's great that there's all this private capital coming to the island, again, it's hubris to think that we all know what's best for the future of the island.
Are you here for tax reasons?
I came here initially for tax reasons. Now I'd say I'm here for tax and lifestyle reasons, and this is where my home is.
So you speak of this place as your home now, and
it is my home.
There are two sides to this place. I mean, there's the one side which you look out here, and there's these beautiful condominiums, and they've all been rebuilt, and there's power restored, and there's running water. But there's another side to the island after the devastation of the hurricane. Are you giving back to the other side of the island?
Absolutely. So I'm trying to give back in as many ways as I can. This was the second year that we did the Coin Agenda Caribbean Conference. 10% of our ticket proceeds went to island charities. We're looking at two communities that need each other. We're looking at the blockchain community that has had a problem establishing itself in New York, where it maybe should have been. I've been looking for what we call friendly jurisdictions. Where can we go where it's not just the taxes, but people want us to be here. They embrace new technology instead of are afraid of it. And I'm old enough to have been through the internet, through social media, and all those technologies in the very beginning had people who said, what? Internet? You must be all pornography. What? Social media, you must be all about trying to kidnap people, or I mean, just all this nonsense. And same thing with the blockchain. It's still very early in the blockchain. 10 years from now, your blockchain is going to be invisible inside of your phone.
The crypto scene isn't necessarily anywhere. I think this is going to spring up, and this will be a part of it. But I don't think this will be the full crypto scene. There's a lot of other jurisdictions, Switzerland, Singapore, all going after it now. Well, I mean, the requirement is you have to live in Puerto Rico for 6 months a year, and that's not practical for a lot of people who are actually running businesses in the United States. If you move your business here and you can run it from here, different story. But I don't think the percentage of people that can actually do that are a lot smaller than the entire crypto scene.
Crypto conferences by day, but Puerto Rico comes alive at night. I've been battling my way up this road, meeting people. People have been hoarding me and harassing me. Some that know what's going on in the crypto scene, and others, well, who try to sell me Bitcoin out of their pockets.
There's been a cryptocurrency revolution that's been happening here, especially after Maria. I think it's accelerated people's desire to bring economic opportunity to the island. It's absolutely necessary. There's still parts of the island that don't have power, which I don't understand how in a developed country at this point we are not able to restore power to places.
So what is a Bitcoin?
It is a cryptocurrency.
And where do you buy a cryptocurrency from?
All different kinds of online exchanges. Coinbase is one of them.
And what's the price of a Bitcoin today?
Oh my gosh, it's I think it's isn't 10,000, 15,000?
Where do you buy Bitcoin from?
You can buy it anywhere you want. Anywhere. You can buy it online, you can buy it down the street, you can buy it at the liquor store, you can buy it anywhere you want. Bitcoin is everywhere. If you want some Bitcoin, you want some Bitcoin? I'll sell you some Bitcoin right now.
How much is one Bitcoin?
One Bitcoin? Yeah. One Bitcoin? 1,300.
I'll take one.
I think there's a lot of uncertainty in the investment. It's volatile. It's risky. You get a lot of, you can win a lot, or you lose a lot.
So is the blockchain going to have more of an impact on our lives than the internet had on our lives, relatively? I mean, people are talking about the blockchain revolution being bigger than the internet revolution.
Yeah, so another area is because the internet revolution really just democratized information. Because it wasn't secure, a lot of the other amazing things that could be done with the internet were never done. Because if it's not secure, you can't put money on it. You can't put any of all the other sort of interesting things. You can't put voting on it. You can't put governance on it. You can't do any of these other things. You can't put energy systems in it. If it's not secure, you can't put critical systems there. You can only use it for information. Not that information is invaluable, but it's one pillar. So the internet has basically only been one pillar of what's possible. Once you've now secured it, all of the other things become possible. So it's probably 10 times bigger than the internet, maybe 100 times, but probably at least 10 times. I mean, it's an incredible opportunity to upgrade systems, to create mass efficiency in a way that creates a higher quality of life and fairness for everybody. It creates transparency around systems. I mean, it's a game changer.
A game changer indeed, to the point that 3 cryptocurrency conferences were held in San Juan simultaneously in March 2018. Branded Restart Week, this was a community-driven week of events in Puerto Rico, celebrating culture, rebuilding the vibrant past, and envisioning the future. The week included 3 back-to-back blockchain industry conferences, which brought members of the international blockchain community together. These conferences shared a common objective of tying the Puerto Rican community with the emerging blockchain technology verticals. About 150,000 people remain without power across the island, so the disaster recovery issues loom over the event attendees. But the question remains, is Puerto Rico the next Cryptopia? Crypto conferences in Puerto Rico, did you ever think you'd see the day where a bunch of crazy people wearing cowboy hats build a community in Puerto Rico around crypto?
So I had a little precognition, if you will. Michael Turpin, who's one of the people responsible for dragging me unwillingly into crypto, moved here a couple of years ago with his wife, and he had lived in Las Vegas for a long time, so I would always go visit him in Las Vegas. And so when he moved here, I was like, that's really interesting. And we started talking about sort of the tax laws and some of the optimal reasons for being here as a US citizen. But also really, he said he moved here, you know, in many ways to explore a new business environment, but he actually found a social environment and a cultural environment that he fell in love with. And so he was here before the hurricane. And I think after the hurricane, he and Brock and some of the other people really came together and began thinking about, we've created all this wealth as a community, as a network. What should we do with this money? I mean, are we just going to sort of sit on it and fly around in jets, or are we going to make something happen with it and really have an impact on the world? And I think that is really noble, and it's the first time I've seen that sort of Rockefeller-esque give back energy in any industry. It hasn't happened in any of the internet industries I've been part of.
So when you arrived here this time, what were your perceptions of Puerto Rico?
Well, I haven't been here since the hurricane, and I was quite keen. I have a lot of social and personal connections to this place, so I was keen to see the damage and the recovery. And I was both struck by how much recovery has been made and how much damage there still is. I mean, across the street even from here was one of the best espresso shops in all Puerto Rico, and it's not opening, and there's no plans to reopen. So we are in a place that's sort of been knocked down and in the process of creative rebuilding.
And this rebuilding is something the crypto community in San Juan want to tackle head on.
Was it worse or better than I thought? Well, no, I think it was about what I thought. Maybe a little better on how we came in, but you can still see the devastation, and there's still a lot to be done. But you know, I think it was pretty well documented, at least in the States, about what had gone on here and the devastation that happened. So I was expecting it to be pretty bad, and it's still pretty bad.
Are you doing any projects in Puerto Rico to help Puerto Rico?
Oh, we're doing everything we possibly can. This is not a crypto movement. This is an everything movement. The top people I know in healthcare are here. The top people I know in education are here. The top people I know in agriculture or permaculture are here. The top people I know in energy, from solar to recyclables they're all here right now. If you walk around the conference, it's like superheroes from all over the planet that are like the wizards of making that stuff happen and all over the earth, and they all came here for some reason.
So just how is the crypto community in Puerto Rico planning on giving back to residents and righting some of the wrongs of the past? Brock Pierce has already started, refurbishing a local community center and promising some of the local schools free internet access. With Restart Week, all the hotels in San Juan were sold out for the first time since the hurricane. The week culminated in a Power to the People benefit concert, hosted free to the community by Lottery.com. The concert was held at the Coliseum, where thousands of people celebrated in an evening of music.
Sure, you know, we're here at the Power to the People concert. It's a benefit concert presented by us at Lottery.com. It's really meant to benefit the entire island directly of Puerto Rico. Specifically, we're partnered with the Boys and Girls Club of Puerto Rico and the Off-Grid Relief Fund. They do great work here, and really, I think we're here mostly to listen and learn. We want to help raise money, but we understand that we are outsiders and we don't know what's best for the island. They know what's best. You know, Puerto Rico knows what's best and what Puerto Rico needs. So we're really here to just be as helpful as we possibly can, but to not impose our will. We're here to advance their cause, not ours. Well, you know, we're part of the crypto community. So, you know, we're in the middle of an ICO of our own. And Puerto Rico is quickly becoming a hotspot for crypto. So that's where the genesis of it was. And then when we really learned of, I think what has previously happened with fundraising efforts here in Puerto Rico, and we thought that we could help and advance that. And I think, for me, when I think of social impact, I want to have goal lines, and I want to have, I want to be able to say that we actually made an impact and we solved a specific problem. And I don't think it's enough for us to just come in, raise money, pat ourselves on the back, and then leave. We want to stay involved in the community at their direction and really get some things done. And it's my hope that we never have to have this benefit concert ever again, that this is the last one, and then the result of this is that Puerto Rico stands on our own feet and doesn't need outside help anymore.
We're building the foundation of something beautiful with and for Puerto Rico. But the foundation is everything, and the things that I say is, okay, you're here, great. It's a beautiful island, go check it out, get to know it. Get to know its people, get to know its culture, understand its needs.
There's really a push to educate local people in our systems. So it's not just carpetbagging, showing up and setting up shop. You have to hire Puerto Ricans to get the tax breaks.
So Max, we've been here at the conferences, there have been over 1,000 people, there have been VCs, there have been capital people, there's been a brains influx of the smartest crypto people in the world, and they've all been enamored by the charm of this place. It's a mix between Barcelona and Lisbon, but it's in the backyard of America. Do you think that that's going to bring the people into, to come and live in Puerto Rico?
Yeah, I think that it will attract a critical mass of talent and capital to get over the hump and to be a player in the crypto space. And with that comes power and influence. And with that comes a government here locally that is willing to work with the entrepreneurs on the ground. And with that comes the ability to then pressure Congress to do things that they want done. The American Congress is venal. They will do whatever you pay them to do. And if you've got money to do it, they'll change laws, they'll create new laws. The financial industry knows for years now that they make the financial laws because they pay for the financial laws. And crypto is getting into the financial space. And the government is pro-crypto. And we're talking about billion-dollar startups. And they can go into Congress and make any law they want to. That's the great lesson we know from America. It's not a country governed by any ethos other than the dollar. That's it.
Forecast for us, when do you think that blockchain money or cryptocurrency will become a viable source for the 3 billion unbanked people to be able to trade with each other? How far away are we? You gave us the example of the internet starting and then becoming usable.
I think that billions of people's lives will be impacted much faster than people would realize or think. And you have to look at the history of how long did it take Facebook to get to 1 billion users? How long did it take, Uber to get to where it is? How long did it take for WhatsApp? And what you're seeing is things are happening faster and faster and faster because people are becoming more and more connected. The learning curve, is getting, the divide is getting shorter and shorter. We're in these exponential times, and you have to teach someone a new behavior. It has to be improving their lives by like an order of magnitude. And that's why Africa is so interesting. You have to look at things like M-Pesa. The most advanced payment market in the world is Kenya, which would surprise most people, and that's because the need is the greatest. And so when there's billions of people that don't have access to things that are almost as important as clean drinking water that most of us take for granted, the need is there. As soon as the technology is there and able to deliver it, I think, the word spreads like wildfire.
I've been following you for a few years. I've seen you on the stages. You were really one of the pioneers of blockchain. You're so humble about it. Do you sometimes, before you go to bed at night, do you sometimes just take a minute and say, I built something amazing. I was there. I spearheaded this thing.
I think about the beginning of this a lot because I also feel like I was at the beginning of the internet. Having lived before the internet, for anyone who has, a distinctive difference from the moment that things turned on and connectivity forever was permeating our lives. So I've grown through that, and when I was 11 I started coding, and that was when I first fell in love with the building side of it. So when some people are using Legos and building blocks, I was just writing lines of code. Some people were learning French and Spanish. I was learning how to speak computer languages. And so I think that it's been deeply within me understanding what the beginning of something looks like. The blockchain is the thing that to me shows the world is radically changing, way more than what the internet did. The internet was the first version of this. The blockchain is the biggest improvement we've ever seen. So to me, it's an amazing thing. I think about it all the time, how excited I am.
I want my children to have the same life that I had in Puerto Rico, where I never thought of living in another place. Puerto Rico is very unique. And my dream is that my family have the same opportunities, that they can operate on a world-class level, work from Puerto Rico in the most sophisticated things. And I really believe that in order for that to happen, is that we have to bring back that diaspora, the talented diaspora, and we need help from talented people.
So I think there's two different things. There's speculators and there's builders, right? And so you have a unique asset class. You know, in fact, Wyoming now refers to utility tokens as a new asset class, but this is software that happens to have a tradable market value. Just like gold has a tradable aftermarket value, but you can make jewelry out of it.
There's been $6 billion poured into this space over the last 12 months. And that money actually, why some people say, oh, they're very focused on the price, and they say, oh, it comes and goes, which it does, but it's about the awareness and the fact that all of that money now is focused on making that technology usable.
Negativity. Is there negativity about you guys being on the island? Are some people saying, you guys are coming here, you're not paying tax, you're buying up our real estate, you're inflating prices, or have they welcomed you here with open arms?
I see a lot more people being welcoming. I'm told there are people that think that we're invaders, but I haven't met one yet. I mean, I have people ask questions, typically reporters, but
that's our job.
I don't really see a groundswell of opinion against what we're doing here.
Will all this be enough to rebuild the island's infrastructure? It seems to be having an effect, but only time will tell. What we do know, though, is that Puerto Rico has most certainly been put very firmly on the Cryptopia map.
Well, the only economic impact that we have since the hurricane is the federal help. That's all we get. We are idle right now. We are starting to learn to walk again. You know, we are starting to move again. You know, but it's gonna take a little bit of time. There was a lot of people in Puerto Rico that they just, and believe me, and this is something very upsetting. I didn't have power. I stay. There is people that they need, by medical condition and stuff they have, they need places because they need medical care that they were not going to get it to Puerto Rico. They emigrate. Excuse me. But there was a lot of people that they just moved because they didn't have electrical power. You know, they didn't want to sweat. You know, they want to have something as it was before, and they left. They moved. That people, I don't know what they were thinking on those moments.
You brought us all here. What can we do to help?
Well, I mean, Puerto Rico has a PR problem first and foremost. You know, everyone's showing up, the media showing up, these conversations happening is putting Puerto Rico back on the map. You know, this is one of the three corners of the Bermuda Triangle. It's like a fog or a haze has kind of just hidden this place, and it's not been getting the help that it needs and deserves. And so I'd encourage you to come check it out. You know, if you're about giving, if you know that's part of what you do, there's going to be tons of charities and amazing things and wonderful people going out to do wonderful work all over the island in a time in need. It's still in need. It doesn't have its basic needs. 20–30% of the island doesn't have electricity. You know, there's not even perfect drinking water in all places. I mean, its basic needs aren't met. These are people that are desperately in need of help and assistance right now. Today is a day of service, and so, you know, I encourage people to come out here, get to know the island, get to know the people, get to know the culture, get to know, you know, its needs, and figure out how to use your superpowers from abroad or here to help these people.